Okay, now this is a public hangout, so I guess everyone with the link should be able to come. And I'm going to make an experiment.
Is it showing up on the MTA?
Yeah, look on the other browser when I'm using Google.
Oh, here it is, yeah, live now. Yeah.
So that now I'm going to tell you exactly what the link is.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, it's working.
Now I'm going to tell you exactly what the link is. Okay, I can tell you this link.
Oh, it's good. Yeah.
And the link should be this one. Let me first check. Yes, it is. So the correct link is this.
All right. So, Giulio, I have a couple of things I want to talk to you about.
Great.
One of them is I'm interested in your opinion on the Singularity is Near movie.
Well, as a matter of fact, I have seen it a few hours ago for the first time. Sasha, will you shut up, please? That was my dog. You know, I didn't really like it. It's just one comment that I have. Of course, I like the intellectual content of the interviews.
Yeah.
With Aubrey and Martin and Robert Freitas and all the people who were interviewed. What I found a bit, no, let's say, not entirely satisfying was the psychological characterization of Ramona, the Avatar, near 2033, because she was not really a person. She sounded to me like something halfway between a real person and a chatbot, what it is now. I wonder whether that is intentional, because they wanted to portray someone who is becoming a human being, but is not a full human being yet. I think that was.
It may have been intentional. I felt similarly about the content versus the presentation of it. You know, I loved the content. There were some, of course, good ideas presented, but I felt like the aesthetic was too cyberpunk. It was too cold. And I worry that it will only reach people who are already disposed toward, you know, a narrow demographic that's already easy to attract to transhumanism. Did you see the conversation I had with Martine about that?
Yeah, I see. In fact, I didn't participate in the conversation because I only saw the film today, but I'm going to comment. You remember that scene when, just before taking the Turing test that has been ordered by the judge, at some point she's on a virtual beach with her counselor, and he's advising her on how to sound human. And at some point she says, well, now I understand that feeling like a human means that you love other people more than yourself, that kind of things. That sounded very nice, but not very psychologically complex to me. And
it was a step in the right direction, and I wish they would have pursued it further.
Yeah, I was thinking when I was watching it that maybe there should have been something like a sex scene between Ramona and the psychological counselor, or something else, but something much more emotionally intense than what went on. But I think your impression is right. That they wanted to show someone who is becoming a person and making some steps in the right direction, but is not fully there yet.
Thomas, have you seen, or do you know what movie we're talking about?
Yeah, I'm just reading up about it now on Wikipedia. Yeah, it sounds great. It's based on the book by Ray Kurzweil.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't seen it yet. No. Is it good? Yeah.
It's an interesting movie. I was disappointed in how the information was presented. The information, of course, just like the information in the book, is, you know, especially for people who have never encountered the ideas before, is incredibly valuable information. You know, it's challenging. The ideas are challenging, provocative, and from that angle, I think it's great. And the supporting interviews, my understanding is that you can get even the full-length interviews if you get some bonus material related to the movie. The interviews really, I think, are the value that they're offering. What they've done.
I have also that one.
Oh, check it out tonight.
Yeah, take a look at it, and it would be interesting to hear what you think of how it's presented, which is my concern. I think that whether it was intentional or not, the target audience for the film is going to be males between the ages of 15 and 30, and it's too. If transhumanists want to reach a broader audience than what we've reached historically, then we need to not focus so much on you know, maybe enhanced sexuality or kind of techno gadget coveting or something along those lines. Not to say there's anything wrong with techno gadgets or sexuality. They're great, but I worry that we present these ideas as the reasons to be excited about the transformation that's possible if we use our science and technology wisely. And I think that there are much more compelling and emotionally provocative reasons that we should be talking about. I think we need to talk more about creativity in a broader sense, and more about compassion and pro-social behavior and restructuring society to better distribute power in a more better distribute power in a way that builds us all up. There's just so much more that we could be talking about that I think will inspire people more deeply than these more mundane, fun things. They might be fun, but there's more powerful drivers.
A lot of technologies have started off as fiction and come through into reality. Much more like that, though, you know, through that genre.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
yeah, it was the first thing that the VHS was used for, right? For distributing porn on tapes. So sure, yeah, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
Not to advocate porn, but say again.
It happens with all technologies. They are always very early adopters of any new technology that comes in. Matter of fact, I remember that about 93 or 94, where the web was just born, and I described that to people that nobody really wanted to listen. They say, oh, well, it's something in the future. It's not in the real world. They thought that the internet was something not in the real world. And when I told people, well, you know, you will be able to send video over the internet, have using your computer as a video phone, they didn't even believe that. But one day, I was discussing with a guy who was in the porn business. He was extremely interested, and they started experimenting with the internet right away. Exactly the same happened in the virtual reality field.
Yeah, it happens over and over again. And I think, so I wonder there, Giulio, tell me what you think. When we look at those early adopters of these technologies that have come, particularly over the last 5 to 6 decades, we see, I think, a consistency in the demographic as well of those early adopters, and it may match the demographic that we're already able to attract to transhumanism so easily, right? If you look at most transhumanists, most people become interested in transhumanism probably as teenagers in their 20s, maybe their 30s, generally, when they first become interested, and they're almost all males. We have very few women who are attracted to transhumanism. And I think that that's a problem, and I think that speaks volumes about a flaw in the aesthetic that we're sharing as transhumanists. And I'd like to figure out a way to solve that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that must be true, because it is a fact that there are not many women in transhumanist circles. Now, how to solve that? I do not know. And I do not know because it's not only that I don't know, I think also you don't know.
No.
Because it takes a woman to formulate things in such a way as to be appealing to other women, perhaps.
Yeah.
So the thing is that we should have some women in transhumanist circles, and then they can be much more effective than us in attracting other women.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, agreed. In fact, I was just talking with one of the women who are, we do have several women who are members of the Mormon Transhumanist Association. Yes. I was speaking with one just a couple of, maybe 2 or 3 days ago. She and her husband are both members of the association. They were visiting Utah, and we went on a walk with their kids while the kids were playing in the park. We had a chance to talk about the relationship between feminism and transhumanism, particularly Mormon transhumanism. And I'm hoping to persuade her to start blogging on providing a feminist critique or a feminist perspective on how we present transhumanist ideas and asking questions about it from a woman's perspective.
I'm wondering in which sense you using the word feminist.
Good question.
I mean, does it just mean a woman perspective, or it means something more than that? No, feminist normally means very assertive feminist, like a social movement. I think that kind of feminist sounds to me like something of the 70s. I shouldn't forget that I am on public record here.
Yeah.
I think the gender war, assuming there has been a gender war, I believe there is no gender war anymore. I mean, I don't really make a difference between men and women. I consider everyone as a person. And I guess this attitude is quite common these days. You see what I mean?
It's increasingly common, although I would hesitate to say that we've purged ourselves of the negative aspects of patriarchy. Both in politics and in religion, we see plenty of that still affecting our lives. But in this case, to answer your question more specifically, I'm probably talking, when I was saying feminist a few minutes ago, and in referencing the person I'm referencing, whose name I'm not going to share right now just because I'm not sure yet whether she's ready to do it. But the feminism I'm referencing there is not just from a woman's perspective, but more of the ideological feminism.
Ah, I see.
And I think that's an important point that you bring up, because I don't think that's the only feminine perspective that we need to get. We also need to get the perspective of the feminine perspective from persons who aren't necessarily approaching it from the ideological, but more just from, you know, their natural, maybe more mainstream biological feminine perspective, if that's an appropriate way to put it.
See. Well, however, what I think is that we should have more women on board, and then they will be much better than us in reaching out to other women.
Yeah, I agree. So, you know, taking that observation and returning to the film that we're talking about, The Singularity is Near, I think that the film does very little for either the feminist perspective or the feminine perspective. You know, my inclination after watching it is to just kind of say, hey, you know, it missed that audience. I just got a message from David Foster, who's trying to join. Julie, are you able to extend him a Google Plus invitation? He's saying he can see the Hangout, but he can't join it.
No, well, he can join because now it's public. Now everyone can join.
Yeah, he's having trouble. He says he's having trouble joining.
If he's having troubles, they don't depend on whether the meeting is public or not. Just have to click on the link.
We'll see if that works for him.
Or just send him the link. You know, what you see on the top of the window until the question mark. So between HTTPS until 5. If you just send him that, he should be able to join.
Okay, I'll try that.
But I think he should also be able to join by clicking on the link that he sees on the Google Plus page.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I sent him the link. We'll see if he gets in.
Right. However, the reason why not many people is here is that almost no one is online. I checked that the meeting is visible.
So I have another topic I wanted to ask you, unless you had anything else you wanted to say about the movie, Giulio.
No, I'm still I'm still kind of digesting it, because from some point of view I liked it, just like the other movie, the previous one, Transcendent Man. It was the same kind of movie. This had a more interesting story to separate one interview from another. So
I liked Transcendent Man.
You liked the other more?
Yeah, much more.
Why?
Not because it did necessarily any better job at reaching a broader audience, but because it didn't. In fact, I think the story in the new movie, and The Singularity is Near, actually detracted from the message for me. because the story, it seemed to be the aesthetic seemed too superficial, too concerned about the mundane, and it affected me emotionally in a way that said, transhumanism is maybe a little bit cheap.
Again, I think that was intentional.
It maybe so, and that detracted from it for me. And in fact, I don't have an intention to share the new movie with any of my family or friends just because I didn't like the feeling, the aesthetic of it. Whereas the Transcendent Man, I shared with a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of family and friends, and many of them found it very interesting. I'm worried that the story of this new movie would probably detract from the message and actually make them, because so much of whether we embrace ideas or not doesn't depend on reasoning. It first depends on how we feel about it.
Yes, that's very true. I know one demographics that will be very attracted by the film. That is, these video game enthusiasts and Second Life fans.
Yes.
Because it shows a path from being a very simple avatar in a very cartoon-like virtual world to becoming something much more than human. And I do know many people who will be very much attracted by that idea.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true. On the flip side...
Going to the more positive things, there was one bit about the film that I really loved. You remember that the movie features a very young man who I believe was the youngest PhD from MIT or Caltech or something like that. And in a discussion with Ray, they are discussing 3D printing and its possibility to evolve toward the kind of molecular nanotechnology, like like the math compiler in the Diamond Age. And so Ray asked him, so you will be able to email me a toaster? And the guy answered, well, even better, I will be able to email you a toaster.
I liked that too. That was good.
Yeah, that was a really delicious bit. Oh, we have company. That's great. Hello, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Great, how are you?
Doing well. I'm on vacation with my family in California.
Excellent. Nothing stopped you from joining the MTA online discussion.
A little late, but at least I'm clean, right?
That's right. I don't know, are you? That's an inside Mormon joke, Julio.
Ah, that's why I didn't catch.
That's right. There's a story about one of the Mormon prophets was telling a story about how he had this dream that he went to heaven. Hopefully I'm getting this right. He had this dream that he went to heaven, and when he got there, Joseph Smith, if I remember right, met him, and Joseph Smith told him that he was late to heaven. And his response was, well, at least I'm clean. So Mormons often repeat that when they're late to something.
Yeah, but that's the part of the joke that I didn't understand. Why is, yes, but I'm...
Oh, so in the case of this person, he's saying that he's kind of ethically or morally clean, right? Cleaned of his sins.
Ah, okay.
And but of course, some Mormons will take that and make it into a little bit of a joke by saying, at least I took a shower before I showed up, even though I'm late, something like that.
Oh my. So it's good to be on holiday, I guess, Byron.
Yes, it is. It's very good. I'm playing Othello with my son. I haven't been to the beach yet, but we may do that later.
Yeah. I didn't go anywhere. Actually, I sent my wife to the beach and I stayed here.
Mm. Well, we're glad you're here to talk with us.
Oh, it's been a couple of weeks with friends, and I have many things to do. I cannot really go on holiday these days, and then I have to take care of my dog. We love our doggy very much. It's like a daughter.
Bryant, have you met Thomas before?
No, I don't think we have.
Hi, Bryant. Nice to see you in person.
Yeah, it's good to see you too.
Yeah. Good vacation home. That's good.
So I don't want to interrupt your conversation. You probably had something going already. So
well, we were just talking about the Singularity is Near movie. Have you seen it?
No.
Take a peek at it sometime and let us know what you think.
It's just been out for a few days.
Oh, did you watch it in the theater or did you watch it online?
Online. You can download it.
Okay.
I have another question for you, another topic for you, Julia. You were, if I remember correctly, you were recently in England for a presentation.
That was a great talk.
Can you tell us a little bit about how it went and the kind of reaction you got from people, what you talked about?
But, it was quite good because there were about 60 or 70 persons, and how that series of meetings is run is that after the talk, you go all together to the pub and finish the discussion with beer, which was something quite nice. The interesting thing is that, basically, I intended to give a talk similar to the one that I gave in Salt Lake City, with much more about scientific part. What kind of futuristic science and technologies can be used by people in the far future to resurrect the people in the past. And that was what I thought is the most interesting part of what I wanted to say. But what happened is that I was taking questions interactively, and there were so much discussion on what we could call the basic stuff. Mind uploading, preservation of personal identity after uploading, and these kind of things. That I did not even have the time to reach the second part of the talk. As a matter of fact, we were discussing for hours until they had to close the college, and then we went to continue the discussion at the pub. It was great, and there were a lot of interesting people. This guy who wrote fictional novels about a god and the resurrection was there.
That was, okay, yeah, the ones that we saw online.
Yeah.
There were a couple of different. Has he written, have those been published into book form, or were they just online, those online stories?
I think it's just online. He's one of those persons like me who are supposed to be writing a book, but will never really
get around to it.
Find the time to finish. By the way, let me instead show you a real book. Hold on.
Thomas, have you seen Giulio's presentation from the MTA conference?
Yes, I did. It was great, yeah.
The one where he came out of the closet as a believer?
Yep, that was good. Yep, yeah, returned with, to be with his mom. And I thought that was.
Do I say this?
Yeah.
So this was written by one of the transhumanist guys in London, and it is about transhumanist religion, and it has ideas very similar to ours, with written in a different way, but he's basically saying things very similar to what we say.
Is his name Walter John Williams?
No, it's Dirk Breuer. I'm going to paste a link to the book. Let me find it first.
Looks like there's another science fiction book by that same title.
Let me find the URL.
It's like David
to
hasn't put it in.
The
Thomas, I'm curious to know a little bit about your perspective on, favorite parts of the MTA conference. Did you end up seeing all of it?
Yeah, I watched it all. I've watched it several times, actually. I thought it was great all the way through.
Yeah?
I couldn't put it down.
Did you go?
Favorite, not so favorite? Or let's just go with favorite.
All the favorites? I liked Lincoln. I liked Chris Bradford's stuff was great. I liked Evan Hatfield. It's good. Getting right to the point. I liked Julio. I liked them all. I liked Dorothy. She was interesting. Kathy Wilson. All great. All the way through. I loved it. I've only 20 years to start hearing things like this, and about time.
So, what's your background, Thomas? What led you to? I imagine you were doing some Google searches or something.
I'm a member of the church, and I've studied science for years, chemical engineering, in physics and stuff like that. I'm not actually working in the field right now. I'm more of a scientific hobbyist, raising my kids, and this is very exciting to see Ray Kurzweil's futuristic perspective coming to life and merging with our belief system as well. That's exciting for me.
How did you discover it?
I discovered it by watching. I came across a video on YouTube by a fellow named Tom Horn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I thought, well, Mormon Transhumanist Association. I got to check this out and see what it's all about. And then it was highly intelligent, realistic, down to earth, just the way things really are. And I just loved it. I just thought that was great. Thanks, Tom Horn.
Yeah, Tom Horn, for people watching that don't know, Tom Horn is I guess, mostly, more or less, a Christian fundamentalist. And he wasn't mentioning the Mormon Transhumanist Association with the intention of helping us find Thomas. That's how it came about, and then I just kept watching and watching and watching, and
Also, a former bishop in my ward also discussed with singularity with me and stuff, and just intellectual conversations we've had. And,
what kind of a conversation was that with your bishop?
Yeah, he's a former bishop. He's a stake missionary now. Him and his wife, you know, and we're just talking about the singularity. He's an engineer by trade, and I like talking to engineers who are also, you know, members of the church, just to see that you know, where they're coming from. It's just the same as the way I believe, you know, things to be true.
So did your bishop already know about the idea of the technological singularity?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, and he's pretty excited about it.
From Ray Kurzweil?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Sounds like he must have read The Singularity is Near or something like that.
Quite possibly, yeah. Yeah. I'll have to ask him if he's had a chance to read that. But you know, I was inspired. I'm always scouring YouTube to get some more information about things and get closer and closer to the truth about everything that's going on. And it's just fantastic. It's reality. It was so refreshing to hear you guys come out and say this is the way it is. You know, people are going to take a long time to grasp that. Well, you know, that's probably natural because you know, the way the media basically influences our educational systems and so on and so forth coming up. So it'll be interesting to see how it does develop into sort of mainstream conversation, and you know, people will just start doing what they have to do as they're doing now.
It's becoming mainstream enough, very slowly, but it's more and more mainstream.
Yeah, I agree with you, Julio. It's really interesting to see what the major news networks will pick up these days. But it almost sometimes seems like they don't recognize what they have.
Yeah, but it's coming around. You know, it was just very refreshing to see it from your guys' perspectives, and I've been waiting a long time to see it, and I'm glad. I mean, I'm really surprised a lot more people are well aware of the singularity and just everything that there is to be looking forward to. Another person was, of course, from Cambridge, Aubrey de Grey on the TED Talks. I saw him talking about singularity at university, and I looked up Lincoln's bio and saw that you were a part of that crew there too, and I checked out some of their stuff, and you know, it's fantastic, and just the way Aubrey says so matter of fact that, you know, people are going to live to be 600, 1,000, just infinite, you know, really. So.
Yeah, Aubrey de Grey, he's I love that guy. I just love watching him talk about life extension. It's good stuff.
He's a great guy.
Any of the ideas from the conference that still really stick out to you, Thomas? Particular ideas?
Wow. Hard to say. I guess I couldn't stop watching it. You know, the Flynn effect.
Yeah. Don Bradley mentioned that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, it'd be exciting to see how my kids are only 10, 11, and 5. And as they grow older, they're going to be teaching me things, that's for sure. I'm looking forward to that. And I've always said that since they were babies. And so the younger generation, 10-year-olds and stuff like that, this is quite normal to them, just like technology is quite normal to them. Yeah, it's quite normal.
Come back inside.
And, you know, I guess we got the baby boomers. It's going to take a little while to get them used to the idea. Some of them, anyway. But a lot of them are already looking for these technologies for themselves to you know, slow down the aging process and so on and so forth. I just thought it was very refreshing to see things in a transhumanist way, science and engineering. It was also interesting to see that the other video about the panel there with the scientists and the engineers. I thought that was good too. You guys were talking about things from scientist perspective. Adam Davis was there.
Yeah.
He's great.
That whole row is black.
Adam's a sharp guy.
Yeah. Also, Carl Youngblood plays great clarinet.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. So
Yeah, in fact, Carl's a pretty good musician. He sings and he does a number of things. Yeah.
Cool. That's great.
David Foster just sent me a message through chat. He's watching because he can't get in, and he asked, is the Flynn effect actually an increase in intelligence or just intelligence suited to the modern world? I think that's a good question. Do we consider it greater intelligence because it's adapted more readily to a change in context, perhaps, than an intelligence that kind of was adapted at a younger age for a different context?
Could you remind me what is the Flynn effect?
The Flynn effect, as I understand it, is theoretically this idea that intelligence increases from generation to generation.
I don't think so.
Let's see if I can find a good definition for it.
Well, one interesting
By the way,
thing
why don't you send David the direct link to
Never
join?
mind.
Yeah, I sent it to David, and it doesn't seem to work for him for some reason.
So one interesting thing that I've run across is an article that claimed that diet can have a significant effect on the intelligence. Several points worth. Malnourished countries are somewhat less intelligent to a large extent because of the diet, not because of other things. So I wonder if there would be a Flynn effect just as countries and peoples become better nourished.
Yeah, possibly. David's also mentioning through chat that it's not a theoretical increase in intelligence, but it's measured in tests. Apparently there's data to back up this long, as they describe it in the Wikipedia article, it's a substantial and long sustained increase in intelligence test scores measured in many parts of the world.
Proposed explanations are schooling and test familiarity, generally more stimulating environments, nutrition, infectious diseases, heterosis, environmental toxicity, studies looking at multiple factors, adjustments due to the clan effect, it goes on and on and on. Group differences and so on. Good article here.
Yeah, of course, the reason Don Bradley brought it up was he was referencing his son. He's got a son who's a smart kid, really smart kid. And speaking of Don Bradley, just last night I was at the Sunstone conference, and Don was basically, the Sunstone conference doesn't have keynote speakers per se, but every year, as I understand it, they have a session called Pillars of My Faith, and Don presented at the Pillars of My Faith session of Sunstone. There were, I don't know, a couple hundred people probably at the session, and he talked about his kind of his faith journey. He was born and raised a Mormon, very interested in intellectual pursuits, and those intellectual pursuits kind of drove him out of Mormonism. And then over the last few years, of course, he's returned to Mormonism, and there's a lot of factors in why he returned, but one of the major factors has been his investigation of science and technology and how they open up space for real faith in a real God, basically, you know, and we're not talking a supernatural God here. Don definitely shares the dominant perspective among Mormon transhumanists of that, you know, the God we're talking about is a natural being. Anyway, that was great to attend last night. He did a great job with his presentation. And I believe it will end up being available in a recorded format. So we'll have to share that with people. But anyway, yeah, Don is, as you know from the conference, he's a member of the MTA, and he's a good friend. It's good to hear him speak.
Yeah, I look forward to hearing that. I feel sad that I couldn't attend it.
Yeah, it was fun. We also at Sunstone, Carl Youngblood presented. He had a session sponsored by the Mormon Transhumanist Association. He spoke on, the title of it was Compassionate Obsolescence, something like helping persons deal with accelerating technological change. And from what I understand, his session also went well.
It was a good talk.
Yeah, it was the same one that he gave at the MTA conference, although he expanded it into about 45 minutes and talked about the issue a little bit more broadly than he did at the MTA conference. I'm sorry that David hasn't been able to make it into the conference, into our discussion.
But I find it very sad. Well, you know, the thing is that he can only get in if he's logged into Google+. Maybe that's simply the problem.
I think he's logged into Google+. He's chatting with me through it.
That is not necessarily Google+, can be Gmail. You would see the chat also in Google+.
Oh, he says he's listening to the conference through Google+.
Oh, there's no video?
He should be able to come in.
David, we all think that you're just not clicking on the right button, man.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
At work, we call this a potential ID10T problem.
So I spent some time recently looking into the future of space flight, specifically United States companies that have been forming in the past 5 years or so around getting things or people into space. And it's a really interesting time with the number of different companies. Many of these companies are backed by internet-made billionaires. And you know, I think that there could be a genuine revolution in space travel, getting into space, either to lower than Earth orbit or actually into orbit. However, the concern that I have is, though, is there a market for space travel? There are several companies. One company, I think it's Xcore, is planning a space plane, a rocket-powered space plane, that they plan to take people up to, what, about 100 or 110 kilometers, and then basically straight back down. So they're not going into orbit or anything, but they plan to do this for $95,000 per person.
I would love to do that. I just don't have the money.
Right.
You too?
I'd like to go to the moon, to Mars, to Titan, out of the solar system, wherever they want to take me. But they should make it cheap enough for me.
Did you hear about the guys that are planning a one-way mission to Mars?
Yes, I did. That's a fantastic idea. You know, one of the guys on board is one of the inventors of the Big Brother reality show.
Right.
I know a lot about that because I have been following it. I have also written a couple of articles on it. It is extremely interesting. Now, the thing is that the first part of the reality show will give everyone the opportunity to choose the astronauts who get to go to Mars. You know, like Big Brother, they start many, but then we as the public can vote people out. So that's the first part. We choose the people. Then they are supposed to go to Mars. And since that's the only source of income for them, we watch that version of Big brother on Mars. I think that's a fantastic idea because, in the world of reality shows, for sure there is a lot of money. I think much more money than what any national space agency can afford, even NASA these days. Now, of course, a possibility is that they just want to do the first season of the reality show, to have the public choose the astronauts, and then to take the money and go without even thinking to go to Mars. I kind of suspect that that's the real business plan. That, one has to keep an optimist outlook, even if it's a bit naive at times. They do wish them all the best. I am afraid that they don't really want to go to Mars, but I hope they do.
Yeah, can you imagine the audience that they would get if they really did put them on a spaceship to Mars with video cameras and a reality show over what is it going to take, 6 months or a year to get to fly them to Mars?
Well, it could even be, I think that business plan could make money.
Yeah, I think so.
But I am afraid the alternative business plan can make almost as much money, and it's much less expensive.
David Foster.
To the conference, also Michael Ferguson's talk. I enjoyed that as well. I was watching that again today. For the Science of Spirituality. Talking about how brain activity, being able to reconstruct clips from just from the brain activity.
Yeah, that was fascinating. Those videos just, they're almost shocking, the idea that somebody can just scan your brain and recreate what you're looking at.
Yeah.
That can be done today. It's not science fiction, it's technology.
Yeah.
David Foster was just chiming in chat about our conversation on the space exploration stuff. He was saying that the market for asteroid mining could be huge. Of course, there are those people planning to do asteroid mining. And he says it needs to be a money-making venture.
Oh, yeah.
Say again?
I want to see David Foster here.
Yeah, so do I. He's hiding from us.
I think he is. You move to another place, Barrett?
Can't hear you, Bryant. You're on mute or something.
Oh yeah, I just went to another room. There is a company that specifically devoted themselves to the future of space asteroid mining, developing different vehicles to do that with. And there are a lot of companies actually just getting into the satellite launch business. I think that's the primary economic driver at this point. And there's going to be a lot of course, there are the traditional companies that are largely government contractors that have been doing it for decades. There are a lot of new companies, though, getting into things. It'll be interesting to see what the competition will do, whether they bring the prices down. They all expect to, quite a bit in some cases. I do worry, though, that there's just not enough of a market for all these different companies to exist together. There is one company, Bigelow Aerospace, I believe, that is trying to get into it. It looks like they licensed or borrowed the designs from NASA for inflatable habitats in space, which will be interesting to see how well they do. But some of these other companies that are getting into the space launch business, if they could become successful at creating these easy to set up inflatable space habitats, that could really open up things to people living in space or being tourists in space. But it's true, like Julio said, $95,000 especially when all you're doing is going up and coming right back down. It's a lot of money.
They make that $100, I mean.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Cheaper than a plane ticket, right? You know,
Even
so
150.
CD players, yeah.
David Foster made another interesting comment through chat when we were talking about the one-way Mars mission. He says that what worries him is that people will end up in a kind of a Lord of the Flies situation after a short time. What do you guys think of that?
With all the world watching on cameras, no, I don't think so.
well, we haven't seen any revolts on the International Space Station yet, have we?
We don't know. They are not on camera 24 hours.
That's true.
And they're still within the reach of our technology, you know, near term. But if you want to, like, go on a murder spree on Mars, there's nobody to stop you.
That's very true, and I think that would increase the audience of the reality show a lot. So if they are real good business people, they would choose someone with borderline psychopathic personality.
Could happen.
Well, I hope it's for good. Guys, I'd like to make an experiment. I want to see if I can show you a PowerPoint presentation and see how it works.
Go for it.
Because I see that there is a screen share feature. So I push to screen share. I choose the window. I say share selected windows. And you
it works.
Yeah, but is the slide readable or not?
Yeah.
It is readable for me.
Is it?
Yes.
No fuzziness, no refresh,
Oh, it's beautiful.
no refresh problems. I will see that.
Yeah. No, it is like
recorded on YouTube.
it is like your picture that it only shows in the larger screen when you are talking.
Right. So I should be talking so you can see the picture on the larger screen. So
yeah, but from here
guys,
it looks great. It looks really sharp.
See, let me go to one with the smaller text. So can you guys read the text here?
Kevin Kelly, 2009.
No, I mean the small text.
The Turing Church conjecture states that any computation executed by one computer, etc.
So it works well. Does any of you guys have a PowerPoint presentation? This is the presentation I gave in London, by the way.
Yeah, I can share something. Let's see.
Yeah, what I think is that you don't need to be talking because we can choose which window is in focus. For example, now I'm going to try to put Thomas in focus. Yes, it works. So if you just click someone, you're going to see him in the main window.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. Great. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so, Lincoln, I see something about Google Docs. Lincoln has added document transfigure in use app. So I'm going to say yes, use app.
Okay.
But that's...
This is a Google presentation.
Yeah, but we don't see it all at the same time.
I think if you click on the Google Docs button, you'll see it.
Yeah, no, I am seeing it now, but I think the right way to do these things is via screen share.
I'm not able to do a Google Doc through screen share.
No, I mean, do you have a local... sure you can. You share the Firefox window. Via Google Doc is local.
There we go.
I'm watching right. Huh?
So now you should be able to see my screen.
Yeah, I see your screen. And
Cool.
now everyone sees the same thing.
That works pretty well. Well, guys, I've got to get going. I've got to get up to Salt Lake City. I'm going to be helping out with Sunstone this afternoon, doing some session sharing. It was nice talking with all of you.
You too.
Yeah, that's great. You know, for the next time, you should make sure that more people show up. Maybe it's not as simple as pushing a button. I don't understand why David was not able to come in.
It'll get easier.
Yeah, I hope so, but, well, maybe just nobody was online.
Okay.
Thanks a lot for setting it up, Giulio.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you,
thanks a
Julia.
lot to you guys for coming. I also have to go.
Talk to you later.
Okay,
All right.
talk to you soon.
Bye.
Yes, thank you all.